We are Anka. Stay tuned for updated real news.
Hello, Anka Daily News viewers. How are you? I hope you're all healthy and happy. As Anka Daily News team, we continue to share the developments regarding the Russia-Ukraine war with you, and we will soon share with you an important development regarding the front line. As it is known, the Ukrainian armed forces are putting up a great resistance, and this process is a 2-year process, and the Russian armed forces are currently carrying out operations around Kharkiv. Kharkiv is a very important location for the Russian armed forces, and the goal of the Russian armed forces, which can no longer advance on the main line, is to achieve more decisive results. The Kharkiv front line has been very active in recent days, and as you already know, the Russian armed forces is in a difficult situation, and the increasing losses due to the events has worn out the Russian armed forces. Therefore, the Russian armed forces are trying to find a motivation in this area. Allegedly, American weapons have recently been authorized to be used in the strike on Russian territory, and this has made the Russian military even more worried. Recently, an infiltration attempt by the Russian army was detected to the Ukrainian army. And what are the developments on this subject? Let's take a look together. Before moving on to our report, I would like to make a small reminder. As Anka Daily News team, we strive to convey to you the developments regarding the Russia-Ukraine war. So don't forget to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so that you don't miss our daily reports and explanations. You know that I also read all of your comments on our videos. Please continue to share your ideas about our content in the comments and tell us in the comments what contents you would like to see on Anka Daily News channel. Let's start if you are ready. Anka Daily News reports. So the struggle between the Ukrainian armed forces and the Russian armed forces continues in earnest, and the epic line of resistance of the Ukrainian armed forces is striving to ensure security along the entire border and end the occupation. Thanks to the significant operations carried out by the Ukrainian armed forces, the advance of the Russian armed forces has been largely halted. Until this advance of the Russian armed forces was stopped, they suffered a lot of losses. Therefore, their morale is low, and there has resulted in the Russian soldiers not being able to utilize their active combat experience. For this reason, the Russian armed forces are no longer acting with the logic of a regular army. A regular army is very important for the continuation of a war. So, of course, irregular warfare techniques can also lead to significant successes during the war. However, it is never enough on its own, especially in the context of this war. The regular army is even more important, but the Russian armed forces are now waging the war because without deception, they are unlikely to win this war. So far, the Russian armed forces have done no more than capture autonomous regions, and the rulers in these regions were also pro-Russians. But in other regions, the situation did not go as desired, and the Russian army has also changed tactics. The change of tactics of the Russian army should not be considered as a change, because what we are about to discuss here shows that the Russian army now cares about the security of the Russian citizens. Of course, an army always acts according to order, and theoretically, the most authoritative person who gives orders to the Russian army is, of course, Vladimir Putin. So Vladimir Putin, the president of the Russian Federation, has clearly chosen to put Russian citizens in danger. In the past few days, Ukrainian military intelligence has received very important information, and according to this information, there was going to be a border breach towards the Kharkiv border of Ukraine. Moreover, this border violation was to be carried out by the Russian citizens. However, they were not actually Russian citizens. Ukrainian soldiers were to be deceived in the planned operation. And this operation to be carried out by the Russian armed forces, a group of Russian soldiers would come to the Ukrainian border on their motorcycle, and they were wearing civilian clothes. The plan was simple. The Ukrainian armed forces would destroy these civilians-looking people arriving by motorcycles, and this would give the world the image that the Ukrainian army was destroying civilians. It was an operation that had to be the potential to be very effective, and it was really going to be a logical move by the Russian armed forces for a long time, but there was a big obstacle in front of them. Ukrainian intelligence, which had stepped in a critical moment since the beginning of the war, would once again step in. So Ukrainian intelligence once again foiled the plans of the Russian armed forces, and the plan of the Russian armed forces to infiltrate the civilian clothes had been exposed. Now it was time for the operation. As it is known, one of the most effective activities of the Ukrainian armed forces in the warfare is dawn operations, and this operation of the Ukrainian armed forces really changed the war doctrine. Unmanned aerial vehicles once again appeared on the scene, and the Russian soldiers in civilian clothes tried to sneak across the Ukrainian border on motorcycles were detected, and the operation was launched. According to reports, Russian soldiers came very close to the border, and they were allowed to get this close by the Ukrainian armed forces, and they were then to be destroyed. Likewise, Russian soldiers were about to cross the border when drones of the Ukrainian armed forces took action. The drones of the Ukrainian armed forces were in the sky and following them. Then shots were fired and the conflict began. First, the Ukrainian border guards opened harassing fire, and the Russian soldiers continued to pretend to be civilians, but the appearance of the drones, the plans of the Russian soldiers were exposed. They immediately started firing with their concealed rifles, but in the meantime, the drones started dropping bombs from the sky. As the drone dropped the bombs, that the Russian soldiers left their motorcycle and started to flee. But the shooting continued. With the effect of the heavy bombardment, the Russian soldiers were destroyed, and the supposedly clever plan of the Russian armed forces was foiled by the Ukrainian intelligence. Once again, the Russian armed forces suffered heavy losses. Moreover, the covert operation had failed, and the joint war capacity of the Ukrainian armed forces and the Ukrainian intelligence was once again demonstrated. According to information obtained from the regional sources, the operation in question caused a great shock to the Russian army, because according to them, the probability of success of the Russian commander's plan was quite high, but the most important thing they overlooked was Ukrainian intelligence. As it is known, Ukrainian intelligence, which has been carrying out critical operations since the beginning of the war, had established a great superiority over Russian intelligence, and this superiority had a very negative impact on the war efforts of the Russian armed forces. Consequently, the conflicts between the Russian sources that we have seen before emerged again. And these conflicts have a very negative impact on the coordination between the Russian sources. But now I want to know, what do you think? Do you think the capabilities of the Ukrainian intelligence are improving? What do you think about the Russian military's use of irregular warfare techniques? And how is Ukrainian intelligence succeeding? How do you assess the internal conflict between the Russian sources? Let me know in the comments, because you know that I read and I care a lot about all of your comments.